All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Tampa Bay Developer Podcast. Here today, we have Angela Yue. Welcome to the show, Angela.
Thank you for having me. This is cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Can't wait, right? And Angela is the owner of Grand Cathedral Cigars, or one of the owners, right? Partner.
Correct.
Well,
yes.
Thanks for having us. This is so cool. We're doing it in the building.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm excited you guys are here, and I'm excited to share our story. And I'm excited to have a cigar and a cocktail.
Let's have a cigar. Let's light one up. So what's your technique? I know everyone has a different technique with lighting these bad boys. What's your technique?
So I like to toast it first, just because I can see where the flame is going, and I don't want to hit the wrapper. The wrapper is so delicate. Once you scorch it, I mean, it's not how it's intended to be smoked.
Right.
So I always like to toast the bottom foot, maybe for like 20 seconds, and then there's some embers already developing. And then once you're done toasting, it should just light within a second.
And then you hit it with the flame after.
And I always turn one time.
Turn one time.
Yeah, I turn one time.
People
just to
are
make
so-
sure it's even.
People get so crazy with it. You know, some people only, you have to use a match because of the natural burning wood. And
Oh, yeah.
I love cigars. I would say I'm a cigar guy, but I only smoke like Gasparilla a few
cutter.
times a year. Mine's
Is
not
yours
cut.
cut?
Is
Yeah.
it? No, I thought they were cut.
There you go.
I don't know. Any technique is a good technique as long as
You
you're
know
smoking.
what's funny? What you said about the lighter. When you go to a cigar factory anywhere in the world, Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Honduras, Ecuador, anywhere, the cigar makers, as big and fancy as they are, they have a little, just a little soft flame lighter. So all these fancy lighters are great and all, and they're beautiful, but as long as there's fire, it does the job.
It's very true, right? I'm sure before butane lighters, they figured it out
Yeah.
some way. Well, listen, this building is absolutely fantastic. And I think from the outside, it's very cool. I mean, it's obviously Grand Cathedral. It's an old church cathedral. But when you get on the inside, it's incredible. There's stained glass and woodwork and these incredible light fixtures. So what was the shape of what condition was the building in when you guys came in here?
It wasn't terrible. So this building was built in 1906, and I think in like the 80s or 90s, there was a fire that took place, and it collapsed the entire building, including the roof. The only things that stood were the four walls, which they were able to preserve. But after that, they rebuilt everything. So luckily for us, everything is not terribly old.
Yeah.
Most of the work that we did was just decoration and putting, the wood panels on the wall, but structurally everything was here, which kind of made our job a little bit easier.
For sure.
But it was more the aesthetics that we worked on. So the stained glass windows, the flooring, the tiling, more that kind of stuff.
I'm so dumb. I thought that was real stained glass. I didn't even notice it's the Fuente logo.
No, so there's so many windows in this building, it would have been impossible to duplicate stained glass everywhere,
Right.
Especially for how tall the building is. So we had a local artist. She's local to Tampa Heights. Her name is Lulu, and a lot of her stuff is in the Heights area. But she came in right before we opened and painted all the windows.
I love it. It
Yeah.
looks so cool. And obviously it fits with the cathedral vibe. It's amazing. So we're upstairs here on the members only lounge.
Correct.
So you guys have a membership, right? And
Yeah.
kind of what was your thought on, I guess, initially the business portion of it, right? Obviously you can come, grab a drink, smoke a cigar, but where did that membership role come in? Was that the original thought?
Well, in the beginning, we were kind of going back and forth whether we wanted to make the entire facility members only, or if we wanted to portion it out where only the upstairs was members and downstairs was open to the public. Ultimately, that's what we went with, just because we have so many tourists that come to Tampa because we're Cigar City. So to close our doors to tourism and for people who travel here for cigars would just be silly on our end. But we always thought there was a need for a membership lounge in Tampa, just because people like their privacy, a place to host meetings. What better place to host a meeting than over a cigar and bourbon? So that's kind of what we wanted to facilitate. And we're very lucky now. Our membership has remained full since we've been open. But the coolest thing about our membership, I think, are the people who are involved with it. It is a true representation of Tampa. Like a lot of locally owned Tampa businesses, old Tampa families, cigar makers, so I think that's the coolest part about a membership program.
I was looking at y'all's private boxes in the back. You have lawyers and construction companies,
Yeah.
and it's like a mixed bag of everyone that loves
Every
cigars.
industry. And
Yeah.
that's also why I love cigars, because you meet someone from every single industry that you could possibly think of.
Yeah, I mean, well, so I was talking to Drew Newman. We did a podcast with him, and back in the day, cigars obviously were the main form how people ingested tobacco. Today, there's the
Right.
little vape sticks and cigarettes and all
Yeah.
that. But back then, cigars, people have to imagine this was the main, I mean, drugs the wrong word, but like main source people would get their tobacco use, right?
Right.
So even still today, it kind of like fizzled out. There's so many different types of people that smoke cigars. So it's kind of cool you
Yeah.
guys have it all here under one roof.
And I think more so like Tampa in general. So my background is being from California. So the cigar culture in California versus Tampa is completely different. Here, it's not just a hobby or like a pastime that white collar people do. It is a part of Tampa culture. There's so many people my age whose grandparents worked at cigar factories. You know, that's how a bunch of immigrants came here, and that's why you have a Spanish population, a Cuban
Right.
population, Italian population. So it's really, I feel like it's the backbone of a lot of Tampa.
Yeah, that was my great grandmother Rosa. She actually rolled cigars in Ybor City. So
See?
yeah,
Everyone's tied to cigars.
there's a ton of people with that heritage. So yeah, California. So you're from California. What brought you over here to Tampa? Have you always been in the cigar industry?
I've been working with cigars for the past 13, 14 years. 13 years, I think. I'm 32 now, so it's pretty much like half my lifetime, I feel like. So it's all I've ever known. I had a store in San Diego called Lord Puffer. And ultimately, we always wanted to leave California just because for cigars, it wasn't conducive. I mean, you could wake up one day and the governor could say, by the way, there's a no tobacco smoking effective in 24 hours.
Oh.
And at that point, it's like, what do you do?
Is that something that came up during COVID, or has that always been the case in California?
No, that's always been the case. So California is a very anti-tobacco state. The taxation is very high. So for the longevity of what we do, which is sell cigars, there's no lifespan, I guess, in California. So the states that most people always go to are going to be either Florida, Texas, or Pennsylvania, because they're the lower tax states when it comes to cigars. And I remember telling my partner, Nathan, you know, the business and the money could be great, but if you don't enjoy where you live, doesn't mean anything. So to me, Tampa was the most comparable to San Diego. The people, you know, everyone loves outdoors here. Everyone is always on the water with their
Right.
dogs. So lifestyle, I feel like Tampa would have been the best move.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
That's
So-
how we pursue Tampa.
But how did you get into cigars? I mean, you must have been what, 14, 15 years old or younger?
No. So I started working at a cigar shop when I was 17.
Interesting.
And actually, no, I think I was 18 when I started working. I started going to a cigar shop at 17. And the reasoning, it's the dumbest reason. Like, everyone has great stories. Mine is the worst. I was living downtown in the gas lamp in San Diego. And I had just graduated from high school. I was working with the Padres full time, going to school full time at UCSD, but I wasn't 21. And I was living in the gas lamp district, which would be kind of like Bourbon Street, where all the restaurants and bars are and nightclubs. So I couldn't go anywhere because I was underage. And the cigar shop was the only place that never carded me because it was also a coffee shop. So I had this like master plan. I'm going to hang out here and meet some people, and eventually I'll be able to go to other places because I wasn't of age, and I just never left.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So that's a true story, and I would hang out at the cigar shop every single day and do my homework from there, and I became a permanent fixture.
So you were in cigar shops, but were you actually smoking cigars?
No, I didn't want anything to do with cigars. I knew nothing about cigars. You know, I come from a very strict Chinese family where I was supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer, a dentist. So the tobacco route wasn't on the top of my priority list, but everything just fell in place.
So you're telling mom and dad, like, no, I'm only going there to do homework. I'm not.
Yeah, so my mom now, she's very supportive. She loves the cigar culture. She'll come in on the weekends,
That's awesome.
but it took a good 12, 13 years of convincing.
Oh my Lord.
So-
Well, you landed in the Mecca, right? Tampa is the cigar capital, right?
Right.
So when you came here, did you see this building immediately for sale? I don't know the story of how this kind of the real estate transaction took place.
No, so I was in San Diego, and at that point we were kind of dabbling around where we wanted to go next, and we were set on Florida. And I was looking at different zip codes throughout Florida. So my mind was always set on Sarasota, West Palm Beach, or Fort Lauderdale because I was familiar with those towns. I had never been to Tampa before.
How did you hear of Sarasota?
Just because it's a town that's, even if I haven't been there, it's well known in California. There's a lot of people that travel back and forth. So it's just a town that was always in the back of my mind, even though I didn't know much about it. I've just always heard people talking about it.
That's where I grew up. I was born in Tampa, but moved to Sarasota when I was 11, and then did middle school and high school and a little bit after college in Sarasota. But to me, growing up there, it was always just a small little beach town. So it's interesting. It's like on the radar of people in
we would
California.
always hear from it in Southern California, even though I didn't know anything about it. But I'm like, well, people from California go there, so let's look there too.
Check it out, yeah.
Didn't find anything in West Palm Beach. Didn't find anything in Fort Lauderdale. Nothing in Sarasota. And I think I used the wrong zip code one time too. And that's how I found this building. We weren't looking
so you're
for
like
Tampa.
on Zillow, or what are you doing?
LoopNet.
Oh, okay.
LoopNet. And I remember it so clearly. It was a Sunday. It was raining in San Diego, so there's nothing to do. And I was just sitting inside the shop looking, went on LoopNet, found it, and left a message on the realtor's voicemail, who is Steven Schliemann, who is now our membership coordinator. And the message was, I have a crazy idea. I'm from California, but I'd love to open a cigar shop. I know it's a church. Like, I hope it's not offensive or anything. And he gave me a call back on Monday, and he said, well, as a matter of fact, my favorite cigars are Arturo Fuente, and so is the owner of the building. So it was like a match made in heaven.
Was Steven, so he was down with it. I would imagine he would be like, ooh, I don't know if the city would allow it. It's a church. Did you have use and zoning issues, stuff like that?
No, I mean, we're in Cigar City, so the city has always been very supportive of cigars and cigar ventures. And the experience that I've had with the city is they have been nothing but an absolute blessing.
Good.
You know, coming from California, the city has just been so helpful in helping us get on our feet. And that's really all you can ask for as a privately owned business, a city that supports you with the tools that you need. And then ultimately it's up to you what you do with it. But the city has always been very supportive, and it's kind of like a breath of fresh air because you don't get that in California.
No, and I feel like even more lately, right? There's so many business owners that have left California in the last couple years. We're in residential real estate, so we are at the tip of the spear in the sense of we get the calls, right, of people moving here.
Right.
And they all have that same story. We owned a business over there, and it was hard to expand, and we're getting taxed out the ass, and they have all the same stories. So that's awesome to know the local government here wants people to come, and especially to take an old building like this and turn it into something amazing that people can use, because really the thought is like, what the hell else would you use?
And it would be such a shame to demo this building. I mean, there's so much history in it.
Well, that's what it would be, right? They would bulldoze it and then build like some apartment building. I mean, that's kind of that's like the most anyone could do with this. So that's awesome. So you called Steven. He's like, for sure, let's do it. Man, I would imagine there's funding, there's these ideas you have. So you fly to Tampa and you come see this for the first time. What happens?
That was it. That was done. We're easy. Like,
done deal.
Yeah,
like that.
done deal. If we
so
see
you told
something
Steven,
we
we'll
want
take
it, we get it. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
That's all it was. It was a simple flight over here, and I mean, it didn't look cosmetically this pretty when we got it, but the bones were there.
What did you build out? Were these rooms here? I mean, what
these
construction
rooms were
did
here.
you guys do?
So this was office space up here, and those like fictitious office cubicles, you know, with the plexiglass. So that's what that entire room where the members lounge is, and this room, these were all office units.
Got it.
And then downstairs in the humidor, it was also office space. And then where the bar is was a kitchen for the employees to have lunch. So everything was pretty much there. We just kind of elevated and fixed it up a little bit more.
Oh, nice. So you guys got lucky in the sense of like you didn't take this completely run down.
No, thank God we didn't. Yeah. And then the plumbing was here. The restrooms were all here because it was a church at one point. So there was good amount of, restroom space. So we just kind of made it pretty.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. And then outside, you guys have that beautiful area. And I noticed on the stones you have written, I think it's the story of kind of Cigar City.
Yeah, so around our koi pond on all the big top pavers is a chronological story of Arturo Fuente and how the company came to be. Starting in 1912, Arturo Fuente Sr., who started the company, all the way up to where we are today. So every few bricks is another, 5 years of what happened or important monumental things that occurred during their span. And so that is. And I really want to preserve, Fuente and Cigar City because that's what Tampa is. And there's so many people that travel from all over the world to come here because of their passion for cigars.
Yeah.
So this store, which started off as bar lounge membership, has really turned into a museum. And
yeah.
people like to come here and learn about the history of Tampa and cigars. So I'm proud to be able to do that now.
Yeah, you're a big part of it. I think one day when more business owners like yourself have these amazing ideas and things like this pop up all over the city, you're going to start a little bus tour around, right?
Yeah.
Ybor City, the factory, and then you come here and you have a cigar.
And I think that's the coolest thing about Tampa, as the years pass by, we're in 2023. People who are born and raised in Tampa and old Tampa families don't forget Tampa of what it is. They don't let the history get lost. They don't let the culture go away, and they really try hard to preserve it, which I think is absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why I started the show, just to expose that history and culture.
right.
Tampa has such a unique history to it. Everyone moving here should know it. It's not just another Florida city. I think that's so much deeper than that. And if everyone can understand our history, maybe we can build something in the future, right? We don't want to have a bunch of apartments.
People from Tampa are proud to be from Tampa, too.
Yeah.
It's not like other cities where they're trying to move away and go to other places. Like, people who are born and raised in Tampa are proud to be from Tampa.
Tampa proud.
Tampa proud.
So a really funny thing a lot of people say when either I tell them about this place and they've been here before or they've only heard of it is they say, yeah, they don't have food, but the food truck outside is really good. Mm-hmm. They all say that. So what's the story there? Are you not allowed to serve food in here?
No, we could incorporate a food concept if we wanted to, but to do food, I mean, that's a huge build.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, and I used to manage a restaurant, and restaurants are tough. Like, you got expiration date on tomatoes, on mayo, on eggs, on dairy, like, that's a lot of ingredients. So luckily we have a food truck that's parked outside. It's called Chicho's, and they do kind of like crafty sandwiches and burgers, and they're parked permanently there, and they service our customers inside.
That's awesome.
So,
do you guys have any of your own cigars? What are we smoking here?
So this is my personal favorite, which is a Casa Cuba Doble Cinco, and this is made by Arturo Fuente. We do also have our own house cigars downstairs in the humidor. Those cigars are manufactured in Costa Rica, and we sell them in 6 different blends.
That's so cool.
But this is my go-to cigar always.
It's phenomenal. Super smooth, very light. I like mild cigars like this. The dark ones are way too heavy. You got to be in the mood for a heavy cigar like that.
This is an easy cigar, and it's very universal. There's a little bit of flavor profile for no matter who is smoking. Mm-hmm. So I always tend to go to this one.
You know what I love too? How all y'all's drinks are named after like religious icons. Like you have like I'm drinking the Pope.
Right.
And then you have
we have a bishop. We have Old Testament.
It's hilarious.
Old Sinner.
You're digging into that like religious church thing. I think it's sweet.
Yeah. And the girls love it too. So, I mean, our staff here, they're absolutely wonderful. I let them have the creativity of what they want to do. So each one is responsible kind of for their own drink, and they can let their creative minds wander free.
You're a woman who's in the cigar industry. That's a rarity, as you know. Was it difficult finding other women to work here?
I think it was more difficult finding staff because I didn't know anyone in Tampa.
Yeah.
Besides, the J.C. Newman family and the Arturo Fuente family and the Oliva family, those were the first people that I met when I moved here. But as far as...
You met the right people.
Yeah, no, they were great, and I knew them from cigars. But as far as staffing locally, bartenders and everything, it was tough in the beginning trying to find a staff. And also because we didn't necessarily have a direction of where we really wanted to be, because the whole thing was evolving. You know, what our vision was the first day we started to versus what it is now is completely different. So the whole thing was evolving, and it was hard to find a staff, but now I am grateful to the greatest team I could possibly ask for.
They're great. I can attest to that. Yeah, what did you like? You didn't even have an apartment or a house before you had this building.
No, I was like a gypsy. I was Airbnb and Airbnb and I was going from Airbnb to Airbnb to Airbnb.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So when you saw this building, you were pulled. I mean, you jumped ship. You were like,
I just got on the plane and I
this.
left.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Do you still own the business in California?
So I sold that December of last year.
So you did.
Yeah.
You owned that business while you were working on this thing.
Correct.
Wow. I bet that was a challenge, right?
It was. I mean, that was my first store that I owned myself. I've always worked at other people's stores, but that was the first one that I was able to be directly involved in.
Yeah.
So there's a sentimental value to that. But also it just wasn't realistic running a store in California and then in Tampa. You know, logistically it was too difficult. And this is my passion here. This is my pride and joy. This is my baby. So I wanted to dedicate more time here. And there's still room to grow, and there's still so many things that we could do here. You know, I looked at it as why split my time between here and there when there's really no future in California for me.
I love it. Focus on this, on your baby here. So what are some of those things you want to do in the future? What's on the radar?
Okay, the craziest dream that I have.
Let's hear it. Some people, I can't say. I don't want to say.
Craziest dream, and I don't even know if it would ever be possible, but if I could one day host a dinner in the Bell Tower on the Florida Avenue side, that would be the coolest thing. And it wouldn't be like a commercial kitchen or anything. I could cater it out, but I would just love to host a dinner at the top of the Bell Tower because you have a 360-degree view of Tampa. You see Davis Island, Harbor Island, downtown skyline, Raymond James Stadium, you know, the bay. It's absolutely beautiful. So I would just love to host a dinner there.
How big is it? How big are we talking? Like 10 people?
It's about the size of this room.
Not bad.
No, I could put a table of, 6 or 8, and I would love to find maybe like a specialty cater chef and do like a 10-course tasting with a prefixed wine menu. So that's always been my dream.
Speaking my language.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
That's been my dream.
So is that area available for a member to go up there and check out, or that you guys keep
it's
that?
not done at all. That's like long-term goals.
Right. What's up there now? Just
pigeons. Pigeons.
Pigeons and pigeon poop.
Pigeons and pigeons, yeah.
Oh my God, how cool would that be, right? You could even imagine like a chandelier up there, right? You could see it from the street.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
cool. There's a lot of older buildings, including cigar factories in Tampa, that have been abandoned for so long. I tell anyone who's moved here in the last like 5 years, Tampa used to be really run down.
Right.
Tampa was pretty bad in the 90s and early 2000s, and even before that. And a lot of the beautiful old brick buildings and structures have been either bulldozed or abandoned.
Right.
Obviously, this being one of them. There's an old cigar factory, the big clock tower that they're turning into a wine venue in West Tampa.
Yeah.
That's a cool concept. But I love the idea of taking these old buildings and repurposing them versus tearing them down. You see too many torn down. Do you have a vision to expand and do a different type of concept around town?
I mean, I'd always love to open up another store.
Of course.
But I think my hands are tied right now here for the next couple years. I still think there's a lot of room to grow here, but eventually I'd like to do... My home is Tampa now.
Yeah.
I claim Tampa.
I love that.
So once this is completely on its feet and I feel like I'm able to leave, yeah, I'd love to do more in Tampa.
Hell yeah. You said your mom comes here all the time. Does she live here now?
She does. She lives in Harbor Island.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And she has really immersed into Tampa, which I think is the coolest thing.
Was she born in China and then immigrated to America, or was she born here?
Yeah. So she was born in China. My father was born in Hong Kong, and I was born in San Francisco. So I lived, after I was born, I went back to Hong Kong. I lived there until 1996 before the Hong Kong handover to Communist China. And then I moved to San Diego. So that's just always been my home. And when I moved out here, the only one thing that I knew I needed was that my mom lived here with me. So if my mom didn't move out here, I wouldn't have come out here.
I'm a mama's boy. I totally feel you.
Yeah, and I don't have a big family. My family is my mom and my 3 dogs. So
Only child?
only child.
Cheers.
Cheers. Single parents.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
always been my mom and our pets.
That's
So
awesome.
that's the only one thing that I needed is her to come out here.
So mom's here. Mom loves it.
Yeah.
I bet she can't believe this place. Does California have a lot of older buildings like this? I don't think in San Diego. San Francisco does. I mean, San Francisco's gorgeous.
San Diego, I mean, our oldest, we have an old town, but it's all new stuff that was rebuilt.
Yeah.
We don't have old brick buildings like this.
I've never been to San Diego, but that's what I would imagine. Like, not a lot of character to it.
Right. And all the homes are, KB homes, Shea homes, Cookie Cut. They all look the same.
Yeah.
Which when I first moved to Tampa, I thought was the strangest thing because I've never seen places where every home looks so different. But that's how Southern California is.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, when you live there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely gorgeous. But Tampa charm has grown on me.
It does have a lot of charm. Like, think about some of the neighborhoods in South Tampa where you have a brick street, you have like maybe a more modern house, and then right next to it, 100-year-old bungalow,
Right.
and then next to that,
And
like
the
a
trees,
Spanish.
like all those, I don't know which street in South Tampa it is, but there's one road going towards Bayshore, and it's just a column of oak trees on both sides that overhang, and it's the most beautiful thing ever.
Is it the one in Hyde Park?
I think so, maybe.
Willow Avenue. Yeah.
And it's just huge oak trees on each side.
It's like a canopy. It almost looks like a tunnel.
beautiful.
And then you see the water at the other end.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah, Tampa's unique in that way. Not a lot of cities have. And I think actually Tampa has one of the largest tree canopies of any major city on earth.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many trees till I came to Tampa.
Yeah.
When I first moved here, I was taking pictures of the trees and sending it to people in California because
There's trees here. Look, everyone.
Oh my God, there's trees here with leaves on it. Like all our trees are dead.
I know.
And it's green, which is crazy. We don't see
California's
that.
such a desert.
Yeah.
But it's dry. That's the thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, well, I say you guys, you're a Tampa girl now. California has the best weather on planet Earth.
Hands down.
Hands
That
down,
Southern
right?
Cal or San Diego particularly.
So this will be what, your third summer in Florida?
third summer.
Brutal.
Yep. It's not as bad as people make it seem, though. Like, at least it's not Orlando with asphalt everywhere.
That's
we
such
got
a
the
good point.
bay and
Tyler,
close to the
ladder me.
water.
Ladder me, Blazer.
Right over there.
That's the thing about Orlando. Like, I could never do Orlando. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Tampa guy.
Right.
Orlando to me is just tourist traffic, concrete,
Yeah.
cars, like too much,
it's
no
terrible.
beach,
It's terrible.
middle of this. It's horrible, right?
Terrible.
Terrible. But
And it's like Mickey Mouse everywhere. Like, how many times can you see Mickey
It's
Mouse?
so true. You've seen him once. You've seen him a million
It's Mickey
times.
Mouse and like yardstick hurricane slushies, I feel like.
Did you? I mean,
I'm sorry, Orlando.
when you first got to Florida, did you do a lot of adventuring around? I mean, did you go to Sarasota? Did you go to Orlando and
Yeah,
check it
so
out?
I'd like to say I'm pretty adventurous. I like to be outdoors a lot. I like to be out on the water. I love driving because I'm, in California, everything is so far apart.
Yeah.
To go to work, I mean, you have people who live in San Diego who work in LA, and they'll drive 4 hours each way, which is insane.
What?
So for me to go an hour or 2 hours up to Cedar Key or go to Orlando or Daytona, I did my fair share of exploring.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your? I mean, besides Tampa, kind of what's your favorite spot in Florida you've seen?
Cedar Key. I love Cedar Key.
It's beautiful.
That's my place where, like, if I've had a long month of just back-to-back events and I want to get away, I go to Cedar Key because my cell phone doesn't work, their internet is terrible, but they have the best seafood and the people there are just so kind, and I love that town.
That's the real Florida.
Yeah.
Like the back end Florida, right? Off the grid. You can find that in the middle of the state too. Where there's not as much traffic. Obviously, Florida's blown up in the last few years. There's over 20 million people that live here now, which is so crazy. But when you go to little islands like that and little
Yeah.
towns like that, it's really fun to see. But speaking of like back-to-back events, do you guys do events here? Like private events?
Do. So we host a lot of events ourselves. and we pair up with liquor companies and cigar brands.
Cool.
And then we also have kind of turned into an event space where people will reserve the building or the backyard patio for private functions.
Cool. So you can reserve this whole building.
Yeah, so we've had the whole building reserved a couple times. The backyard getting reserved is really common. Towards Q4, we do a lot of holiday socials, Christmas parties, and whatnot. And we do, bachelor parties, birthday parties,
That's
retirement
sick.
parties.
Bachelor party here would be cool.
We work a lot with the city. We throw a lot of city functions. So
That's awesome.
it's fun.
Are you guys staying busy with private events? I would imagine so.
Yeah, in the beginning, we were never really supposed to be an event space. We just wanted to sell cigars and liquor and membership. But because of the space that we have, it has turned more so into an event space.
Yeah.
So now I have an entire container just filled with event stuff.
Oh,
so
amazing.
tables, chairs, tablecloths, chafing dishes for food. If someone wants to do like a banquet table, it turned into an event space.
So if someone was to say, okay, what is Grand Cathedral Cigars? It's like event space, private member, cigar bar. I mean, it's so much.
The sky's the limit. We'll make it happen.
The sky's the limit. And in the future, private dining area upstairs.
Oh,
That'd
and
be
we've had
sweet.
weddings. We've had
Really?
3 weddings here, like walk down the aisle wedding
Where do people do it? Probably in the big room, right?
on the patio.
On the patio.
Yeah. So, and it's a beautiful
I
backdrop.
hope not this time of year.
No, luckily not this time. I actually have an engagement party coming up on Sunday, but for actual weddings, they'll usually do it on the patio, and they'll walk across the bridge of the koi pond and set up
cool.
like a backdrop, and that's where the bridal party stands.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
It's a big area out there. It's a really great space. And if you guys move that furniture, like that's a sizable area where you could get a good party.
And that's we're very lucky. We have a great staff, and when it comes to events, we will dress up the patio completely, or get rid of the furniture, add more furniture. So we're very flexible when it comes to events.
Yeah, heck yeah. And then that area in the koi pond, did you guys all build that or was that there?
Probably like half and half.
Half and
so, yeah, half of it was there, half of it wasn't, and then we really fixed it up and did a lot of landscaping.
Yeah, it looks good.
So, like, we didn't build, but we planted a bunch of bamboo on the north side of the lot.
Banana trees, I see.
Yeah, kind of to make it more of like an oasis and keep us a little bit more private from the neighbors. So...
What do the neighbors think? They're like, what is going on over here? They got cigars. It's a church.
For the most part, we've had, the Tampa Heights and the Seminole Heights community. I'm so lucky that we're situated here because they're very supportive of brick and mortar. So they've just really embraced us being here. They've been wonderful neighbors. So we're pretty blessed.
And then the koi pond, did you guys add that in or was like that a cultural thing you just had to...
So I had a koi pond in San Diego.
Okay.
And that was the one thing that I wanted. 2 things. I wanted a koi pond and I wanted a piano. That's the only 2 things I asked for.
Can't you see Angela with koi like in these big bags running through LAX?
Yeah.
Putting koi in.
Actually, I got some of the koi from Orlando. So I am a huge Facebook Marketplace, thrift shop, Craigslist. To me, it's hunting. And when I find something, it's like I found a treasure.
Yeah.
So a few of the large fish I got from Orlando. And
That's
I drove
so funny.
all the way to Orlando to pick them up and bring them back. A few members dumped fish in there.
Really?
Yeah. We have one member whose daughter released a fish, and she comes and visits the fish.
That's cute.
We had one regular customer who got deployed overseas, and he had 2 koi, so he threw them in there.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's kind of a community now.
It's a little community.
Yeah, it's a community.
I love it. So you are an online Craigslist. My wife is the same way. She loves little treasure hunting. Is that how you curated a lot of these? I mean, you guys have some incredible artwork, cigar labels, old Tampa Tribune articles, stuff like that. How'd you find it all? Because it's a hefty amount of stuff.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Probably 95% of the fixtures in this building I found through either estate sales or Facebook Marketplace.
Amazing.
And I've just been accumulating and accumulating. So when I was in San Diego, I knew we were going to open a store somewhere. I just didn't know where. So I had been collecting decorations and light fixtures
Oh,
and
you were good to go.
doors. Yeah, for almost 2 years.
Amazing.
So I shipped over 2 containers worth of stuff, and that's where a lot of the stuff came from. All the light fixtures downstairs, the chandeliers, that's all from San Diego. A lot of the doors downstairs that you'll see, they came from homes in San Diego that I purchased. These
Wow.
chairs came from
Yeah,
Myrtle
I
Beach.
wanted to ask about these guys. Some of the
Yeah.
furniture is incredible in here. It's beautiful, real, authentic wood carved furniture. It's really pretty. So all this is from you. You didn't hire a designer that put
No, I just like to buy things.
amazing. That's so cool. I saw a woman, she was a shorter woman running around, older woman, and she had a picture frame and she was like, I gotta find a space on the wall for this. Remember her?
Oh, that's
When
Barbara.
yeah,
Yeah, the blonde lady.
yeah, yeah.
She was putting up some pictures for me today.
She was awesome. I'm like, I don't know where you're gonna put it. There's not much more room, but it's so cool. And then you've got like articles too, like Tampa articles, like a Tampa Tribune article about burying President Kennedy, or this one here, which has a have a
Have a
Tampa
Tampa.
advertisement.
Yeah. So that stuff I found on eBay. And I've been collecting for a while different Tampa artifacts just because I knew I wanted this store to be Tampa based. Once we acquired the building, I just went on eBay every single day. And anything that said Ybor City or Tampa, I purchased.
Shopping
So,
spree.
yeah.
That's awesome. And then these, so we're going to be building out a new studio we're super excited about. And I wanted to create, I don't know, we want to smoke cigars in there. I'm looking at these air purifiers. Tell me about these things, because this building is not smoky. It doesn't really smell like cigar smoke. So what type of system in here do you guys have?
So we have multiple systems. We're actually in the process of, we're going to purchase another one. In the members room, we have a few rabbit airs going, as well as downstairs, and we mount them to the ceiling. And then in the bar area, we kind of created our own scrubbing box. So we have one big box with a bunch of filters, and then we have inline fans, and it pulls the air in and cleans it out. So every couple months, we got to switch out the filter pads. And then we purchased that. I don't know if you saw in the high ceiling area, there's a really big fan,
Yeah.
kind of like the ones that they have at Harley Davidson dealerships. But that really helps with moving the air.
Yeah. I mean, I'd imagine a bunch of people smoking cigars in the same building, it would get cloudy, but it's
Yeah, and
looks
that
good
was
in
a
here.
struggle here in Florida just because of the humidity.
Right.
So in Southern California, since we really don't have humidity and it's 70 degrees all year long, we just open 2 doors and it acts like as a vacuum. Here is fine during the cool months, but in the middle of summer, we can't open our doors just because of how hot it is. And then the humidity and the temperature will freeze over our air conditioning unit. So we have to do everything internally.
Well, you guys figured it out. Feels great. And then the room behind us here is really sweet. You guys have a big room, bunch of chairs, and then a ton of TVs on the wall. What do you call that? Like the lounge?
So that's our main members lounge. We call this the quiet room. A lot of our members will reserve this space in here for meetings or events. That's more of like the communal members lounge. So well, on like a Friday night, we'll have a bunch of different people upstairs. The TVs are great whenever there's a sporting event. It's a matrix TV, so you can watch 9 different things, or you can make one big screen
That's
TV.
sick.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I was here for a Florida State game last year, and it was sweet. The place was packed. Like you guys
Yeah.
had the game on. It was a cool vibe. There's not, like you kind of said before, there's really not a lot of these types of concepts here in Tampa. I mean, there's obviously like Davidoff and West Shore,
Yeah.
which is a chain. Is that a chain?
So now they're called Corona Cigars.
Yeah.
And the owner, Jeff Borshwitz, who has been a long time, I want to say hero of mine. Like growing up in the cigar industry, I've always looked up to him just because of all the things he's been able to accomplish. He has multiple stores in Orlando, and this is the one in Tampa. And he also recently opened a store as well in Sarasota. I mean, I think that's the charm of Tampa. You know, every store has a different ambiance. Every store has a different vibe. Even if you go to 7th Avenue, there's a lot smaller stores, but you get to see the hand rolling and the art of
Right.
cigars. So everyone has a little bit different kind of theme.
Yeah, totally. The new Sterling Cigar Lounge on 7th Avenue. Do you know the story behind that?
I
I'd love to check
don't,
that out.
but I think tonight, if I saw correctly on social media, is their opening night.
No way.
I think they already had their soft opening this past weekend, but I think they're actually opening today. So
What a
that's
cool
on my to-do
concept.
list to go
Yeah.
to today.
Yeah, you got to check that out. That was an interesting concept because it was built from the ground up.
Yeah,
So they built
that
that
is a huge
specifically.
endeavor.
Massive,
Huge.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big investment just for a cigar lounge. You're kind of in that world, right? You're talking to these owners and the cigar families. Are they seeing a pretty big increase in popularity of customers and tourists and people
Yeah, I
interested?
mean, Tampa, especially Ybor City, is branded cigar city in the entire world. You know, people come here specifically for cigars. So I think the more stores that open, the better it is for the whole cigar community because that's why people come here.
Yeah.
And since I've been here, which I moved here July of 2020, and we opened January of 2021, I've seen a huge influx of people coming here for cigars. And it's also not only because of cigars, but I mean, look at how much Tampa has grown.
Right.
You know, look at Water Street, look at Tampa Heights area. There's just so many new business ventures and concepts coming here. I mean, Tampa's the greatest city in the world. You have everything. You
Everything.
can eat, drink, smoke, play,
Go to the beach,
go to the beach, go on a boat and fish.
go to Mickey Mouse, but not live right
Yeah,
next to him.
everything is here.
Everything, yeah. I was telling Drew Newman, I could see Tampa really being a cruise ship, not only just port where people embark, but an actual destination, like a stop.
Right.
Like imagine you come here, you hop on a tour bus, you go to the cigar factories and the lounges,
There's
and
so much to do here.
there's so much to do
And then the
here.
river walk. I mean, like, look at the river. It's
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous.
And so much more to come too. If you look at even like just take the Heights, right? Like just this area. There's so much planned right here. There's
Yeah.
so much new development. The armature works, development, that whole area around it with the apartments and the office buildings. I mean, pretty soon here, like the actual urban core is going to kind of creep up to where you guys
Right.
are.
And I love that it's not just commercial space or just, you know, residential space. Everything is starting to be mixed use, which is great because you can access everything within walking distance. And I think that's what makes a town so attractive to
I agree.
tourists.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to stay at a hotel, walk to a restaurant, walk to a bar, or bike, or, you know, an Uber is $15.
Yeah.
Everything is so close. I mean, this is the greatest city ever. And then you have
Totally
sports
agree.
too. We have amazing sports here.
Amazing sports. And then maybe the Rays in Ybor City. Can you imagine that?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
What a game changer.
That'd be awesome.
What a game changer.
That's a trifecta there.
I mean, it's exploding and there's so much more to come. I think we're just getting started. I think we've really only scratched the surface of what this city could become.
Right.
So moving what I always liked about LA was the walkability factor there, right? Like the storefronts, you know, on every major street there's all these storefronts and people walking along the street, and then like behind that commercial sector there was neighborhoods.
Right.
And I think what's cool about Tampa is we're almost taking that same model, like you
Yes,
said,
I
mixed
agree.
use, which is super cool. I think the downside we have though is the freaking heat, man. Ooh, it's hard.
Yeah.
I can imagine like walking here to Armature Works is not that far, maybe
Right.
a mile. Like it's really not that bad,
Right.
but this time of year,
But then God bless Uber and scooters.
yeah, that's true. The new e-bike system. And I think too, as more people appreciate that walkable lifestyle and as the population gets denser, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get some more trolley lines up in here.
Yeah.
We'll get some public transportation like California has. Like
Right.
California, like LA has the rail system. I think San Diego has one too.
Yeah, we
right?
have our trolley system, and it's, you know, everyone uses it.
Yeah.
Just because it goes to all the different towns and stuff. And I mean, I would love to see Tampa have that.
I think it's coming. It just takes time. I think you're in early. I really
But
do.
so I moved here 2020. We're in 2023 now, and in the almost 3 years that I've been here, the sidewalks have been improved. You know, on 7th Avenue, going from here to the Newman factory, they've completely redone the center divider. Now you have palm trees, and everything's gotten fixed up. So
Yeah.
I feel like Tampa's really taking the move of joining not only Ybor, but downtown Ybor, Channelside, Armature. Like, it's all connected, which I think is nice.
That's what's really cool is there's a few different areas around the urban core that are really becoming one. So it's like this one large, really urban city. I mean, just alone, right? Like true downtown, even where your mom's at, Harbor Island, all the way up here to the Heights, and then all the way over to Ybor. Like soon, realistically, that's going to become one walkable area.
Yeah.
Like if you could snap your finger and all the development that is planned is
Should do like
built.
a loop.
Oh my
Just a
God,
loop of the
yeah.
whole place.
Imagine a trolley that, well, even the trolley line right now goes from Ybor down through downtown,
Right.
past Harbor Island, and then up. I mean, if they continue it, it'll literally, I think actually it's on Florida Avenue.
Yeah, I think
Or is
they have
it
a pickup. They have a pickup on
No, it's
by
on
the
Franklin.
convention, by the convention center. No.
Yeah, that's Dick Greco Plaza. That's actually named after my grandfather. That goes straight up into downtown, and they've talked about doing another line that goes from there to I think all the way up
Palm,
to
no?
Palm.
Yeah,
Yes.
Palm.
So imagine that.
That'd be awesome.
And then imagine from Palm it goes over 7th and
No,
connects
this
back to
whole
Ybor.
area is beautiful.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So
And the
I think you're in
convention
early.
center is absolutely gorgeous.
Amazing.
So when I go visit my mom and I drive across the bridge to come back to the non-Harbor Island side, I look at the skyline and I always take a picture and send it to my California friends because it's so beautiful. You know, you have American Social in Jackson's, you have the convention center right there, you have major beautiful hotels, you have boutique hotels. I mean, there's really something for everyone.
Yeah, totally. You got to get your real estate license. Get some of those California buyers.
Yeah.
Come
there's a
on,
lot of them.
people.
I'm trying to convince them all to come here. I'm telling you, life is just better in Tampa.
I think it is. I think you could say that to a lot of people from a lot of states. You could tell a New Yorker that, right? You could tell anyone that. The quality of life here is, I think, so far beyond so many other states. And not even just government, not even from a tax perspective, but just a quality of life.
That is what I always say. I say the quality of life. And I joke around with my boyfriend all the time and say, you know, if there was ever a conference or something where they take people, expats from other states who have moved here to Tampa to do like a speech or something, like I would love to talk about it. Just because, I mean, Tampa has given me everything I've ever wanted. And the people, the city, I mean, just everything.
When you knew of Tampa, right? You're a cigar girl, you're in the industry, you've obviously heard, okay, Cigar City. Is there anything that surprised you living here for 3 years that was just totally unexpected?
No, just because I've always moved a lot. While I lived in San Diego, a lot of my friends call me a gypsy because I just pick up and go.
Yeah.
I'll get bored and I'll be like, all right, off to the next place. You know, I moved to the Bahamas in 30 days because I decided I wanted to live in the Bahamas.
Holy shit.
So I lived there for 3 years. So nothing was really
What part of the
surprising.
Bahamas?
I lived
Where?
in Abaco.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I lived in Abaco,
Gorgeous.
in Marsh Harbor and Treasure Key. But no, I mean, there wasn't anything that was crazy. I will say the above ground utilities was one of the things that I noticed.
Interesting,
Just
yeah.
because everything in California, everything is buried underground. So we don't have electrical wires hanging. So that was kind of a shock to see electrical wires everywhere.
I'm not a fan. They need to bury those
But
suckers.
that was the only thing.
Why don't they bury them, right? I mean, it probably costs more money, but we have hurricanes here.
Right.
It looks so ugly to
Oh,
have
and
these
street
poles.
gutters. There's not a lot of street gutters. So like in California, every block you go on, there's, you know, irrigation and gutters, and the storm drain water will go
Right.
somewhere. But it's also because San Diego is such a new town and Tampa is so much older that a lot of these communities like West Tampa and whatnot were here for so long that they never really built that underground irrigation system and whatnot. So I'll say the utilities was the one
That's
thing
such a
that
funny
I
thing.
noticed.
That's like the last thing I would have thought, but it's
Utilities.
so true now that you say that. All the wires everywhere and the old gutters and the brick streets. Yeah, I would imagine San Diego doesn't have a lot of brick streets, right?
No, and I mean it's a new city.
Yeah, it's a new city.
Everything is all the new homes that are being developed. They're all new communities.
And even LA, because you know LA's an old city,
Right.
But a lot of it's spread out in like the 60s, 70s after
Yeah.
brick streets
and they're
were created.
continuing to build in LA on top of each other. But when they're building, everything is newer.
Yeah.
So you see more new construction versus old construction.
If you look in the neighborhoods around here, Ybor, Tampa Heights, like this kind of north downtown area, you'll be driving on a paved road and hit a pothole and like go into a brick road. Like literally, if you look at the
Yeah.
paved roads, it's on top of brick. It'd be interesting if they could figure out a cost
But see,
effective
for
way
me, coming from
to
San
remove it.
Diego, I thought the brick roads were the coolest thing because we don't get to see that.
Totally
I mean,
agree.
that's like archaic for us, you know?
But it's so cool. But that's that character we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what gives the sauce to a city is that character. And that's a part of this building too, right? If we could figure out a way to get those brick roads back and repurpose these old buildings,
Right.
we could be talking about a really cool city.
Yeah. Well, even like, so downstairs in our bar area, if you notice the pavers that are on the ground, they're the same pavers that they have in Ybor, the exact same ones. And when we were doing construction, we were talking whether we should redo the floors and put beautiful tile. But then we're like, no, why would we do that? This is a piece of history right here on our ground that you
Yeah.
can't duplicate because those pavers don't exist anymore.
I love that. There's so many projects around town that I look at and I just think, you could see that in Miami or Orlando. We've hated on Orlando so much today. But you know, like that character, I think, is what makes a town special, and it's what makes people want to move here and
Right.
people want to visit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know,
You can go to a
X
new city anywhere.
a new city anywhere, all over the
Can't
world.
find these brick buildings anymore. You can't find, the pavers in Ybor.
No,
You can't make those trees in Hyde Park grow.
No,
You
no.
can't do that.
A lot of those trees were put in by developers in the 1920s and
Okay.
30s. If you look at, which is really interesting, and maybe even on your walls you have some old pictures of Tampa, a lot of the area was scrubland. So it was like saw palmetto and pine
Okay.
trees.
Right.
If you go out, and I'd love to show you some pictures, my mom's side of the family,
Okay.
my uncle, so the Turner family owns this big ranch, the High Hat Ranch in Sarasota. Huge property, but it's like untouched, raw Florida land, and a lot of it's pine trees. And you
Right.
kind of don't get a lot of that here in the city because there's so many oak trees.
Right.
If you look at an old picture of Tampa, it's a
All
lot
tall
of
pine.
all these tall, cool pine trees, and I think that that is a really interesting, cool look. It's a little unfortunate that back in the day so many trees were built and it's
Right.
like all these trees are everywhere,
Well, I
but
still
it's
geek
gorgeous.
out going up to like Wesley Chapel.
Yes.
Because on the freeway, it's all, or you guys call it interstate out here, right?
Yeah.
Interstate. The interstate has all these pine trees next to it. And I send pictures of that to people in California.
What
We don't see that.
do people do you still have friends that are like, we'll never leave, Florida's a swamp?
No. So since I've been here, we throw a lot of events, and our regulars in California and our friends in San Diego, they've all made the trip out here, and everyone falls in love with this town just because
Yeah.
there's so much to do. Even if we take away business, right? Like take away the business aspect. I mean, you have everything you could possibly ask for here. Whatever
For real.
and I love entertaining people, guests from out of town, because you can take them anywhere. If they're into sports, we have that. If they're into music, we have that. If they're into theater, we have that. If they want to go fishing and on the boat, we have that. So there's just so much here.
Yeah, how could you not love it, I guess, right?
I'm trying to convince everyone to come out here.
You should. Although there's a lot of people that say, shut up, the rent's too high. We don't need more people, more traffic. But hey, if you have a beautiful place, people are going to want to move. What are you going to do? Stop people from moving? It's just
Right.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
Growing up, I don't think I knew one person from California. It was just never on the radar of Californians. I mean, it was just
Right.
never there. I think the East Coast of Florida got a lot of Northeastern people, New York. A lot of those people went down 95 and moved to Fort Lauderdale and Boca Raton
Right.
and Miami and all that. And then our coast got a lot of Midwestern influence, stuff like
Snowbirds.
that, snowbirds. We never had people from California, and really since COVID, that has shifted. I think COVID, for more reasons than one, some political, maybe it exposed some of the issues like you mentioned with
Right.
business in California that put Florida on the map, and maybe people from California thought, oh, maybe Florida's a place we should look at
Right.
as an alternative.
I think COVID is what triggered the accelerated move out of California. you know, we always wanted to leave, but it was COVID that made us realize, you know, this is not the state for us.
Yeah.
You know, during COVID, we were only allowed to be out of the home for a set amount of hours. And if you were driving on the freeway, you would get pulled over. And if you weren't working, you know, if you didn't have a government job, you weren't in the military, you weren't a first responder, you didn't work at a hospital, you would get cited for being on the freeway. And for me, owning a cigar lounge where I still have to pay my OTP tax, which is other tobacco product tax, which is 70% in California, my mentality is, how do you expect me to pay your tax every single month if you're not letting us be open?
770?
70.
70.
It's anywhere, so it dabbles between 65 and 75%, changes every year.
Meaning you sell something for $1 and you owe a 70-cent tax?
To the state of California, whether we sell it or not. So that's the problem.
That almost
for
doesn't
us.
even seem real.
No, it's terrible. And for us,
Like, how would you even run a business like that?
well, you can't. So when the city is telling you that you can't be open, and the state is telling you that people can't be out on the roads unless they're an essential worker, how are we supposed to sell tobacco products and pay you 70% of tax when you're not allowing us to be open? You know, and I think that was ultimately the trigger that made us want to leave so quickly.
Oh my God, I can imagine.
And
so.
other things are taxed as well, but I mean, tobacco at 70%, that's a huge chunk.
Massive.
And I talk about, you know, I tell people all the time, I couldn't imagine our humidor downstairs with the inventory that we have paying 65 to 70% on all of that inventory.
On top of whatever
Yeah, so
federal tax.
That's on top of, and then there's federal tax, and then there's sales tax. So the
Oh my,
the
you guys are getting
taxation,
eaten alive over there.
yeah, the taxation is, you know, tripled or quadrupled by the time by the time the product hits the end consumer. Then we have our income tax and our state tax that I pay personally at the end of the year too. So it's just taxation on top of taxation on top of taxation. Whereas Florida, the state tax for cigars is 0%.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a huge
That's a
difference,
windfall right there.
especially particularly in the tobacco industry.
That's the thing. It's like you can move here and have this increased quality of life and make more money. So for so
It's
many
a
people,
win-win.
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Drew Newman was saying there's a lot of issues right now in the federal government with tobacco regulation.
Yeah.
And how there's some law that they've passed, I forgot the name of it. They're actually going to Congress and having discussions with them about, they basically, and you might know more than me, but they basically want to regulate all tobacco products the same: cigarette,
Right.
cigar, vape.
Right.
And Drew's position, and I'm sure yours too, is, hey, look, we're different. Like,
It's a
we're a
different
novelty.
product.
It's a
Yeah.
different product.
It's completely different, and that's has been the ongoing fight for premium cigars. But particularly within the past, 5-6 years, it's been more heavily regulated. You know, the FDA is getting involved, but it's not vape. You know,
Right.
vape is made up of propyl glycerin and flavoring, where if you take the raw flavoring and you put it on a styrofoam cup, it'll eat right through it. This is a plant that grows out of the soil. There's not much manipulation that can go into it. So that has been an ongoing issue. And luckily, being in Florida and for the cigar industry as a whole, we have families like the Newmans, the Padrons, the Fuentes, all these different privately owned cigar families are all coming together now to go to Washington, D.C. and bring up these concerns, because a cigarette is not the same as a cigar and a vape is not the same as a cigar.
They're so important. Those families are so important to that process, because who else could stand up and tell that heritage and that story and really explain to some of these lawmakers, like, look, it's really not the same thing, and
Right.
show the history of their family and the people that enjoy these amazing products as a novelty and as something to sit and enjoy with a friend for an hour,
Yeah.
versus a pack a day versus, some 15-year-old kid
It's an
getting a
art.
vape.
I mean, this is I think, cigars, besides the history that's tied with cigars, it's an art in itself. To make a cigar from seed to what we have in our hands goes through hundreds of hands just to get to the finished product, versus a vape, right? You mix two liquids, put it in a bottle, and that's it. It's completely different.
Completely different. It's also marketed different too.
Yeah.
I mean, cigars are sold at gas stations too, right? But vapes are sold at gas stations in these colorful products. And
Right.
I remember, there weren't vapes when I was in high school. I think they kind of just came on the scene after I graduated high school. It was
Right.
more cigarettes then. But I remember there was like
Right now
camel,
is like the peak.
the peak vape, and but even then it was like the flavored cigarettes, like a Camel Crush and like menthol flavorings. I remember the
Right.
FDA was kind of
Yeah.
trying to bat that down. To me, this is completely different. This is, I think it should be a separate regulation on its own.
Right.
I mean, you almost, what's interesting too is it's the most pure form of tobacco,
It
right? You
really
can
is. There's no
ingest,
additives.
there's no additives,
Right.
right? Even cigarettes have additives. So in a weird way, it shouldn't even be regulated like tobacco, even though it's the
Right.
most pure form of tobacco.
Right. True.
So yeah, I think
You should go lobby in DC for us.
I know.
Go lobby for cigar rights in DC.
But the thing is, like the Newman family and all these families are in such an amazing position to be able to tell that story for Tampa.
Right.
And then you guys too, right? All the bar owners and the lounge owners can get together and explain the camaraderie it provides for the people that enjoy it.
Right.
I think you guys will be successful.
So we actually hosted a rally for Marco Rubio maybe like 6 months ago, but I remember his opening sentence was, "This is Cigar City, and this reminds me of smoking a cigar on my grandfather's porch," and that's what it is.
Yeah.
This is a culture, you know.
Right.
It's really a culture. It's not just another product that someone is selling on the shelf to make money off of. It's a piece of history. It's a piece of culture. It's one of the first things that was traded when the Europeans came to, you know, North America. People
Yeah.
brought this back as a form of currency, as a form of medicine. So it's something completely different.
It's probably hard to explain that to a lawmaker or even just a member of the public in California who is so
And Christopher
far
Columbus
removed
brought this back.
Right,
You know?
yeah.
Like it dates back to Christopher Columbus.
since the beginning of the country. But someone in California is not going to probably understand that. They're so far removed from that culture, the culture of Cigar City in Tampa.
Right.
Like I think in their heads, they just associate this with a vape, with a cigarette, and they bundle it all together. And I think that's the disconnect.
So we don't allow cigarette or vape smoking inside, just
Oh.
because we want to keep like the purity of cigars. I guess,
love
so
that.
to speak.
That's cool.
I mean, we don't stop people from smoking vapes and cigarettes or pipe tobacco, but we don't allow it inside. So if a guest comes in and they want to smoke their vape pen or, you know, a cigarette, we just ask for them to go outside to smoke it, just because the smell is so different as well.
So different.
Yeah.
It's like night and day. In fact, when we've done a couple like renovations and flips in real estate, and when you go into a home that's been smoked in cigarettes, right, it smells horrible
Right.
and there's yellow on the walls. But if someone smokes cigars in a home, it actually smells kind of good.
Different.
It smells good though.
Different.
It's, in fact, you can go find perfume and cologne at a store that has
Mm-hmm.
a tobacco or a cigar scent. You're not going to find a vape
No.
perfume or
no.
a cigarette perfume,
Right.
right? It's notoriously bad smelling. So I think on every level they're completely different. And maybe it would take you going back to California and dragging some of those lawmakers here and be
Right.
like, look at what a cigar really is.
Yeah.
Come check the culture out.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I think we've been rolling about an hour. Angela, I really appreciate you doing the show.
Thank you for coming out. This
You're-
was really neat. I
think
loved
your
it.
story's hilarious. Like you go into a tobacco shop to start doing homework, and now what? Did
You
you
know
say
what? It's
15
the
years later?
worst story ever, because most
It's
people, they come
hilarious.
from a family of cigar makers or they're generational cigar stores.
Are you embarrassed? Like if Drew Newman asked you, so how did you get into this business? Are you like, oh well?
No, but at this point, it's the truth, and I don't know any other story to tell. It's the truth. So,
That's so funny.
yeah, that's how I got into cigars, and I am so blessed to, I don't know, for whatever reason, I decided to walk into a cigar shop one day. I am so blessed that I did that, because this is my life, and I've met the greatest people in my life through cigars.
It's amazing. Well, I'm so glad you stumbled in on it too, because what you've created here is fantastic, and everyone in Tampa should come check it out.
Thank you so much.
Grand Cathedral Cigars on Florida Avenue. You guys are easy to find, easy to get to. But if people want to follow you or look you up online, where can they find you?
So we are Grand Cathedral Cigars on Instagram, same thing on Facebook, and we just opened up a YouTube channel. We haven't done anything with it yet, but we're on YouTube as well.
Stay tuned, people.
Stay tuned.
Amazing. Angela, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All
I
right, cheers.
appreciate you letting me share my story.
Absolutely. Okay, bye, everybody.